Good evening, world. Back at you, Contra-Dictions, episode 37. Hey, we've been away for a minute. Glad you tuned in tonight. Welcome to Monday night. We got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. We're going to discuss Rona, where we stand today, SCOTUS, who's next, how we feel about what's going on in that arena, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the election 2020. Where do we stand? Is Trump in the lead? Is Biden in the lead? It just depends on which one you see. So let's get things kicked off. Let's introduce our boys. We got Kenny on the mic. Where you at, Kenny?
What's up? What's up? Welcome back. Welcome back. Glad to be here.
Glennon, how you feeling?
What's going on? Feeling lovely, gentlemen. Welcome back. Happy Monday. We got a lot. Thanks for being with us. I know you there's football going on and all sorts of stuff, but you're hanging out with us. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's go right in. Let's start in with the Rona real quick. Where we stand, boys? What are we feeling about the Rona right now?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's not to say it's null and void, but we've got football going on in full swing. The NFL hasn't reported any new positive cases whatsoever. Teams have been playing. Like I said, we've got a game going on tonight. Personally, at my son's high school, we did have 12 of the football players of the varsity team report positive just today. That's new developing. So what I am actually hearing is that more kids are contracting it. More of the high school kids, the middle school kids, not necessarily the middle school kids, but maybe like 8th grade and up. And that's really kind of seems to where it's being concentrated or where it's focusing, if it can do such a thing, but yeah, it really
hasn't focused virus. Okay, so
yeah, right.
People in certain ways.
Yeah, but it hasn't been affecting too many adults. I know at one point we were talking about there being a sudden surge of spikes in people 35, between 35 and 45. Hasn't been happening. Numbers are still on the decline. They're actually on the decline in most states. A few states are stagnant, kind of flatlined out. But in terms of, I mean, we are above 200,000 deaths officially. We are above 200,000 deaths. So just to put that out there, and Trump has actually came out and admitted that he's downplayed the situation. I know we talked about that. We're going to get into it, but I'm glad that he actually did admit it. At the end of the day, I don't really know if downplaying it was the right thing to do. I think that there's a way, because I know the other argument is that, oh, well, you don't want a president to come on and cause total chaos or cause citizens to panic. And we get that, of course, too. But I don't really see a Barack Obama per se doing that. I think he would have put the information out in a way that was truthful, but still digestible and positive, giving hope. I don't really think that that's too hard to ask of a president, somebody at that level. But we'll go ahead and leave you with that, Kenny. I don't want to hit you with a 5-minute diatribe.
Sure. So I'm just excited to have this moment right here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and let this roll for you real quick. And here we go.
If Donald Trump has his way, the complications from COVID-19, which are well beyond what they should be. It's estimated that 200 million people have died. Probably by the time
he had it 3-0.
That was me dying. That was me dying. One of the 200 million people who have died from COVID.
Jesus,
not sure what earth he's on, but there was no 200 million people dying from COVID. So,
hey, look, when you're looking at the
that number is we have gone above 200,000, not million. We have gone above 200,000, not million.
And what's sad is he didn't really glitch with it. He didn't say in America. He said 2 million, and actually he goes even further.
He said 200 million, didn't he?
Yeah, 200 million, and then says, before I end this speech, were you in that speech? Boy,
So then hold on.
just-
So hold on. Hey, look, because I didn't see that clip, and so you got to let that play out. Because if he said that, then to me, that he's obviously being facetious. If he said that at the end of it, I mean, come on.
No, he's dead. I just deleted it.
I don't know if he has.
No.
I don't know if he has the capacity to
Absolutely.
I mean, he knows
He
200
has
million
the-
people are going to die by the end of his speech.
No.
You know what I mean?
Here you go. I mean, let me play the whole thing so that nobody thinks that I'm editing anything. Here we go. Here we go. This is not going to fare well.
Had this way, the complications of COVID-19, which are well beyond what they should be. It's estimated that 200 million people have died, probably by the time I finish this talk.
Someone
Joe Biden, I tried to save you. He was serious as hell.
No, Joe. And what I just wanted to show people here is this is the daily deaths in America. Okay. It's at its lowest point that it's been since August 3rd.
Yeah.
So we are trending the right direction. It's not spiking down. At no point here was there a point where we just started wearing masks and it started dropping. There's been no correlation there or causation. If you look at the cases are also on the decline. I know young kids are getting it more. I also wanted to point out the world. Okay, a lot of times people say, well, Trump's doing a terrible job, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, look at the world's cases. Okay, if you look at the 7-day average, the world is continuing to go up. If you look at the daily deaths, they've pretty much flatlined. But I think it's important to look at, if you take this and shoot. Here we go.
There you go.
And look at the U.S.'s cases compared to the world's cases. Then you'll see it's very similar. Okay. Sorry, let's go to the deaths. Here we go.
Yeah, the deaths.
The death curve is very similar. It was high. It was high. It was low with a little kick up. It was low with a little kick up. So when you look at these two, you can even see the little plateau below here and the little plateau below here. But it's not America pushing numbers because, look, the 7-day movement is 780, 750 here. Okay. Here we're talking about 5,000. So this is a lot of countries, and it's having the same path. And the reason that's important is that this is not going to be something that is regulated by a mask or by social distancing. This is all of these countries. This is the disease doing this. And I'm not saying that we should do nothing. I'm just merely saying that the science on it doesn't show that these things that we're doing are actually making any difference. I mean, it makes us feel better, makes us feel more secure. But at the end of the day, us trying to be healthy, you know, I saw somebody in the Daylight Donuts right down the street from me, and there was two people. They were both easily over 350, maybe 400 pounds. They both had masks on. Now, yes, they have masks on to stop corona, but they probably need masks on. No, I'm not going there. All I'm saying is that heart disease is going to get you, brother. And you might want to just, maybe that's not what you should be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we've way, too much. We've bought into these different ideals that are not nearly as safe as losing weight is. I wanted to bring this up. Let me bring up one more thing. This right here is interesting because I looked for 2 hours on Google and could not find a single article about masks that predated 2020. But I did find this is the one thing I found. And this was not handpicked. Like, I looked at a bunch and I picked this one up. This is the only one. Google it, spend 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. If you find one, send it into the show. But this is the only one I found in my it wasn't quite 2 hours, but around that search. This is from the University of Alberta, okay? And it says, new surgical mask doesn't trap viruses, it renders them harmless. So when you go through here and read, it talks about surgical masks are originally designed to protect the wearer from infectious droplets, which we all know. Then it says, that it doesn't help much to prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. This is 2017. Before it was politically cool. Now, what they said, and this is actually genius. I don't know why, but I'll get to this. Airborne pathogens like the flu are transmitted in aerosol droplets, which is what we all know. That's the same way that this has been passed, right? But it says that while they may trap the droplets, it's still infectious while it's on the mask. So merely handling the mask opens up new avenues for infection. This is from 2017. This is not some political piece that somebody did in 2020 arguing over nothing. This is before politics got involved in it. This is saying the same thing that the World Health Organization and the CDC said before they decided to switch it. Now, this mask, and I wonder why I never heard this before. This is a mask that what they're talking about at the title where they say that innovative masks could make it effective by killing the virus. They were making masks that had salt and sugar in them. And when you would breathe it in, the salt would crystallize it and then the sugar would kill it because the sugar would eat away. Dope idea. Like, I read this study. I encourage people. We'll put it in the link. It's at sciencedaily.com. It was from 2017, January 5th. Super cool article. And this has no political bias in it. And I just found it fascinating that you read that and it says masks would be capable of killing viruses and saving lives in an epidemic or pandemic situation. During the 2014-2015 season, 8,000 Canadians were hospitalized with the flu. That same, deaths only reached 600, blah, blah, blah. But it goes through these things and explains how, and maybe it ended up not working. I don't know. But I just found that fascinating because it was so hard. I just wanted an article that wasn't political. I wanted to find a 2015 article saying, hey, if we ever have a pandemic, you should always wear a mask. Then I can go, okay. They're going to have the proof there. This is before. I just didn't want anything from 2020. And so this was from 2017. Again, I would encourage people to look it up. I did not hand select that. That was literally the only one that I found.
You're not going to find too much on masks because masks, they really don't do much. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I think it's more so like a psychological placebo sort of thing. We feel like it's helping us, but the science actually says that.
We've seen China do it for years, so now we're following suit.
Yep.
Which is crazy. And we always, what's funny is I don't want to sound any sort of way, but the Chinese people get sick a lot. They get sick quite a bit. Like, I don't know if you guys ever had like a Asian neighbor. They get sick like quite often, and I think that's why they feel like wearing the mask is going to help. But the science actually shows that what helps fight viruses and even bacteria within the body is living a healthy lifestyle. What helps is actually putting your body through stress, like getting out, jogging, breathing heavy, sweating. All of that stuff promotes your immune system, and it actually promotes, HGH and all sorts of stuff, testosterone in men. And we can go down the list of positive things that living a healthy lifestyle does for you. But I think it's actually funny because even in the article that Kenny just brought up, it said that masks are often used to prevent the wearer from getting sick or getting some sort of contracting a virus or bacteria. And just since the year 2020, the narrative has actually been reversed. And it's fucked up because now all of a sudden you're going to try to tell me that if I don't wear a mask, now the mask isn't to protect me, like it said in the article, it's to protect Joe, Schmo, and Blow and their family. And you're going to tell me that if I'm uncomfortable wearing a mask and I happen to go out, but I'm living a healthy lifestyle though, and you fuckers aren't living a healthy lifestyle, but you want me to wear a mask to protect you, but I'm selfish? Like, it's crazy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't worn a mask in like the past 2 months. Haven't been sick, and if I get sick, then maybe I'll eat my words. But I'm not. Yeah, I know way too many people that have gotten sick that are healthy, and nothing to the people that have passed away. That's obviously very tragic and sad, and it can happen to anybody. But I just know way too many people that have had it, that have lived through it.
I will tell you this, Glenn. I
especially
love
my age
Zach's
group.
idea, Zachary Rourke, in the messages saying we should just alternate drinking margaritas with salt and sugar.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
All for it.
I'm in favor.
Oh man,
Yeah, that was a great point you pointed out, Glenn. And we talked about that before with the way that people handle this. They switch that narrative. Like, we've always thought wearing a mask would be to protect us. The media comes out and says it's to protect other people. When even this article says when you're breathing in, it's the droplets that are stopping on the outside of the mask, meaning you would have gotten it. So
right.
It's just funny. And I think they probably did that because they realized that the person breathing into the mask would be less likely to get it on their hands. And so everyone would know if it stopped on the outside of the mask and you grabbed it. So they just went, it just shows the shadiness. And I'm not saying either, both sides do this stuff,
But absolutely. And they try to politicize this crap. And I wouldn't necessarily say shadiness, but I mean, look, at the end of the day, everybody's spinning their wheels with this thing. You know what I mean? Like, we've never been through something like this in our lifetime. But I tend to err on the side of science, and I tend to listen to scientists and doctors. That's just me. Now we kind of live in a world where not only is the media fake, but the news that we're getting from doctors is politicized. And
there's silence in speech, Glenn. What do you think about, and this, we've talked on this show before, and I always stop short of saying that China did this on purpose. But I've been very clear. People can go on when I did my live streams before we even started the show. From day one, I've said that this was not from a bat, that this was from the Wuhan lab. And now this lady comes out, says that's the case. Now, doesn't mean that that's true because it's just somebody saying it. But she is one of the world's, best doctors at exactly this. And they silenced her on Twitter, on Facebook. Like, how is this happening? This lady literally does this for a living, understands this virus better than 99.999% of us.
I'm surprised she's still alive.
Me too.
Well, I'm not surprised, and I don't know if you guys read the story. It came out a couple months ago. There was an Asian guy that, long story short, they really believe he came up with a legitimate cure for the coronavirus at NYU, and the next day he was found murdered in his vehicle right outside the NYU campus. So it's not a coincidence. Somebody's really got a tight seal on this thing, and somebody's going to make trillions of dollars off of the whole thing.
Let me take another angle, because we're going to end up segueing into the elections. So one of the big problems here, and we've kind of touched on this, I think we may have talked about this offline, but maybe not online, is that how is the next president going to handle a response to China? Because if you don't believe that China did it intentionally, I think you're at this point, I think you're naive if you think it came from eating a bat. So I'm not trying to say anybody's stupid, but I think you're naive if you think it happened that somebody ate a bat right outside of a facility. Like, if you had a nuclear plant blow up next to your house, and then somebody threw a piece of trash on the ground, and somebody walked over and goes, "Hey man, that trash on the ground is causing that little kid's face to melt right there." You'd be like, "Hold on, what about the nuclear power plant right there?
Right.
Maybe that's leaking into the water supply."
Hey,
No, this is this piece of ball of trash right here.
Hey, before we go off into the election, did y'all see the new? Did you see this in Wuhan? Oh, hold on, let me get this off.
No, I didn't see that.
Hold on, there it is, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
Well, we've talked about this too, and I tend to believe kind of what Glennon was just, I think, quietly alluding to without wanting to get murdered, is that I think they have a virus, or they have something there, because we talked about it before. It just doesn't make sense. There's no way with that condensed amount of people that limited amount of people get the virus. They could be lying about it, but I don't think you're in that situation that they just showed if people are dying in the streets. And I think some people died, but I think they took videos of people who died. Remember, they had like people just laying in the streets. Like, that's not how Corona kills you anyways.
Right.
So I think they're doing some shady shit for sure.
This whole thing is crazy, man. And look, and I think they found a way. If you notice, everything always has something to do with health. Like, why did Barack Obama choose the healthcare system to want to change? Right? He could have chose. He could have regulated and privatized jails or deprivatized jails rather, or he could have did a lot of things. But why health? Health is something that you can't get around. Any way you slice the cake, you can't get around it. So we see it here now, going on as well. And the government, I don't really know if it's just our government, our national government, the United States government, or the world government, so to speak. The UN and the other powers that may be. They found a way to really infringe on our freedoms. And I know for us, it's a state by state thing, and certain states are more lenient than others. But healthcare, because of the healthcare, they've really found a way to mandate masks and things like that. And I brought it up on the last show, but people still are under the impression that you can be sent to jail and things like that if you don't wear a mask. That is not the case. It's a mandate, not a law. What a mandate means is that if you walk into a store without a mask and the store requires you to have one, they can legally kick you out. If you refuse to leave that store, then you can be brought up on charges and so on and so forth.
The store can be penalized or shut down if they don't do what you tell them to do, which
yes,
it's amazing how people can give.
Which is such an infringement on our freedoms.
Because what they did, and you're exactly right, Glenn, and what they've done, and this is funny because both political sides do this all the time, and I hate it, is they take your fears and then they really try to dig into your fears, right?
They exacerbate it.
Republicans do it by saying, hey, look, if we don't have law and order, we have nothing. Black Lives Matter does it. If you don't do this, the police are going to murder you. The healthcare systems do it. If you don't have nationwide healthcare, I heard Biden talked about how his son, thank goodness my son had good healthcare. I couldn't imagine if he didn't. Your son passed away. Like, that's sad. But do you think that if you have a 90% chance of dying, you think a government healthcare system is going to pay for that bill? I'm sorry, Bubba. They're just not going to. And so they're going to make these decisions that, at least in a free society, I can say, do I want to spend $1 million to save my child? Right? If I want to John Q, shoot myself in the head and write a living directive that says my child can have my heart, can I do that? Or do I have to go, no, I can't do that, and I can't even choose to give my heart to somebody, because what if somebody else who's poorer than my child wants my heart? It should have to go to them? No. We need to have more freedoms in this country, and both sides, Republicans and Democrats, have gone after our rights. And that's why I've tried to be as consistent as I can on being pro-gun rights, pro being able to, have your healthcare options, but at the same time saying, hey, look, Republicans, you don't get to just have warrants on, willy-nilly. You don't get to just pull over whoever you want because it's 2:00 in the morning. You feel like you have the right to ask what somebody's doing. You have the right to mind your business.
Out.
So these types of things all fall under the same umbrella that I'm in, and this fear mongering is been bad. I mean, it's been terrible.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too. And I kind of feel like healthcare, and look, and I'm a capitalist. Obviously, I'm a capitalist. I love capitalism, but I think that when it comes to healthcare, that's where the shit hits the fan with capitalism. I think healthcare is the one section where it's like, okay, if I'm drowning, you're gonna tell me that I need $10,000 for you to throw me a life raft? So it's on a very primal level. When you're talking about life and death, I think capitalism is in healthcare. That's where the buck meets, and that's where it stops. It's who's going to foot that bill, and how much is your life worth at that point? And of course, the argument on one side is, well, you did have an entire life to do better, to make better decisions, to reap better, and you just don't know what somebody's circumstances are. But the other parts of that is, hey, I guess socialism, right? So, or how do you want to put it? I guess socialism, or everybody should be thinking of everybody else, sort of thing. So, healthcare is like
here's
the
the sad
one
part:
thing.
is everybody loves the idea of socialism when they are at least. So, for example, if they're cutting up a brownie 12 ways, everybody's okay with getting the same size brownie. That's all great. But what about socialism when my son has heart failure and your son has diabetes, right? Then all of a sudden your son's more important than mine, or are they getting the same amount of money and the same amount of treatment? And are they getting the same amount of money, or are they getting the same amount of treatment? Because treatment might cost way more for my son. But then, you don't want, what happens when your son dies and my son lives and my son had a worse condition than yours? What happens when I'm an alcoholic, so I get to go to free rehab, and you've been working your butt off, and now your taxes are going higher, but I'm a drug addict. Now, we know sometimes drug addicts choose their path. Sometimes it gets chosen for them because of different situations. So the idea that you're going to figure out a way to make it fair to everybody only works when you're cutting a brownie pie up into 12 slices. That's it. Outside of that, it does not work.
Doesn't work. Yeah, doesn't work.
And actually, so I don't know if you guys know, and we won't take a huge segue here, but they had a Black Lives Matter rally in Valdosta. In Valdosta, kudos to the rally. It was violent free. Okay. It was a constitutionally well done rally. But I want to show you the front page of the newspaper, okay, for what this Black Lives Matter rally said. So go ahead and put it up real quick, Fred. It says racism is not a symptom. Racism is a symptom. Capitalism is the disease. Socialism is the cure. I've said this time and time again. This organization is about one thing, that is socialism. That's what they've been trying to push. The idea that if you're a poor black man or poor black woman, then we're going to just lift everybody up so we can all be like this. Instead, it's just going to drag people down to the lowest common denominator. It is not good. And then I actually had a friend on Facebook when I talked to somebody on my son's football team. I was standing there. The guy comes up, he starts talking to me, and I could tell his accent, right? I lived in South Florida before. I've met a lot of Cubans down there. So I knew his accent was Cuban. I started talking to him. I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Miami." I said, "Oh," I said, "Cool, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Yeah, man." He said, "I can't believe this country that I love so much is starting to fall for socialism." And his wife comes over. Now, these are actually not the parents of the kid. They're actually the grandparents of the kid. They're in their 60s. The lady comes over. She starts tearing up and tells me, because I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm a Marine. I'm very pro-freedom. I believe capitalism is actually the right way." And she starts crying and says, "We were very successful. My father had this business. They went to capitalism. We lost everything. We were so poor. My grandfather had to take the trip over here, basically rafted over here." Okay, I don't know. They didn't tell me the details of the trip, but their grandfather came over here as a political refugee, right? As a refugee, to come over. And so I said, "Look, man, if you ask people from Venezuela or Cubans, ask them about socialists." And this person said, "Well, I'm Cuban and I agree with poor people getting a fair treatment." And it's like, well, are you from Cuba? That's like somebody being Jewish and saying Nazis aren't that bad. They had some good points. And it's like, were you in an enslavement camp? She's like, "Oh, my mom was." I'm like, I have a hard time believing that somebody that came, why was your grandparents here? They're here because they escaped socialism. So you telling me that now she's in favor of socialism is either comical or inaccurate. Who escapes to somewhere and then wants to return to it?
Return to it, right.
I mean, and again, that's why most people that I know, and if you go on my page, a lot of the Spanish people on there are actually friends from South Florida. The way that when Colin Kaepernick wore the Fidel Castro shirt, and then they talked about him coming to Miami, and they were like, "That's not going to fly. That's not going to fly." It's funny because South Florida, Miami-Dade County, now Biden will still win that, but it'll be by a much smaller version because Cubans are not, sorry, of course there are some Cubans, but most Cubans
aren't a monolith.
That's true.
Nah, Cubans that are from Cuba,
but he was
Neither are black
Cubans
people.
that were born in Florida.
Glennon, this is like saying 50 years after slavery and going, blacks aren't a monolith. They don't all think slavery was terrible. Like, could you imagine a couple of handfuls of people? Well, I didn't have it that bad. I mean, I worked, I had a place to sleep. It's like, that's not what we're talking about. You know, that's not what we're talking about. And you're kind of silly if you ever believe that, right? Like, even the best slave didn't want to be a slave, right? I mean, so I can't even believe that people would think that way. But that was a story, man. And this lady, I mean, you could just hear it in her voice. And, you know, just wonderful people, sweet people. Like I said, their grandson / son plays football, my son. And they came up to me, and they're just wonderful people. And it just made me hearing her story about her father. This is not my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. This is her father escaping this horrific situation. And we are just gladly doing it. And like we talked about before, Glenn, and I got to give you credit on the last show, you kind of started pointing out that, hey, man, some of this stuff is just, I mean, you know, you got to call it out. And I was glad that they did it nonviolently, but you're still out there pushing for socialism. That is not going to enrich the lives of most African Americans. It is just not. Like,
and I think this whole idea of, and deep down, people won't admit it, but I think there's like there's something within certain individuals to where like they feel like getting something for free is going to somehow elevate or help certain individuals. I'm telling you, man, socialism is just like you said. It's not where it's at. You know, we can go down that rabbit hole. I know you actually kind of mentioned it a little bit. You started to talk about the presidential election a little bit.
Yeah, let's go there next.
So 2020 election, who's in the driver's seat? Well, I guess that depends on who you ask. According to polls, all the polls at this point are different. They're all different. I actually saw a poll earlier that had Trump up by a point. I was surprised. But most of them
had him +3.
Which one?
Rasmussen. And then in that same type of poll, and I go by approval, disapproval, because if you're talking to people, I think it's just a more accurate representation than it's not like you would approve of his job and go, I'm going to go vote for somebody else. Like, I'm not going to do that. If I approve of somebody, I'm probably going to vote for him. I'm not going to vote at all. I'm not going to go approve. And if I disapprove of somebody, I'm not voting for him.
Not voting for him, right.
So, but then there was another poll in the Hill that had his 11 points as a disapproval rating. So, I mean, it's just way off. I don't know what to think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of crazy. It's all over the place right now. I'll be honest with you. I talked to quite a few more people that have said that they are planning on voting Biden. So, which is pretty interesting. So, have you met anybody? Go ahead.
I was just
going to say that I've talked to a few Black people too that in public won't admit that they plan on voting for Trump, but behind closed doors, are saying that they plan on voting for Trump. So, you kind of have that whole thing too. And I know right now the Black vote is still polling at 12% in Trump's favor. And if what I just said is true, and there are closet Trumpers, I guess, if you will, I mean, that number could increase by 5-8%. I mean, you could be talking about, I mean,
I saw the Latino vote was in Trump's favor too.
Well, look, actually, I saw Latinos. Actually, he had a slight lead with Latinos. And I'm telling you, that is coming from that Cuban big populations of chunks. That's coming from Venezuelans. It's coming from people who have lived in.
Hey, look, man, that large ass caravan that was coming to this country came to this country for a fucking reason. Whether or not the immigration rules were allowed or not, they were leaving that country to come here for a certain reason.
Now,
right?
this is unofficial. This is unofficial, but let me ask you guys this, and this is where I would love to know, is there anybody that you know when you think of Biden supporters who are now going to vote, or let's say Hillary supporters who are going to now vote for Trump, or do you know Trump supporters who have left Trump and now not going to vote for him? Me personally, and the people that I talk to, I've met people that voted Hillary that will not vote this time. I have
like not vote at all, just like
like just
wow.
They're like, I'm not voting for Biden. Like, I think so. I don't want to out the person. They are a black person who does not want to vote for Trump. So they don't want to vote for Trump, but so they're just going to go. They want Trump to win, but they don't want to pull the lever for Trump. So
okay, so and I'm glad you actually said that too. And this is kind of an interesting thing, but most of the people that I've talked to as well that said that they're not going to vote, they're not down with Biden and they just can't see themselves voting for Trump, have been black people. It's majority black people that are saying they're not going to utilize their right or their privilege to vote. And I just think that that's not the right way to go about it. Personally, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's their right to not vote. It's your right to remain silent. You know what I mean?
But don't complain after the fact.
Well, you certainly don't have a say anymore. And a lot of people died and gave their blood and sacrifice and freedom for that right to vote. And that is your way to be able to say something. And not only that, guys, but, when you go to the polls on the 3rd, it's not just the president that's on there. Like, you know that, right? Like, there's a lot more people that need, a lot more elected officials, a lot more important positions.
Yeah, you don't have to
be voted on that day.
Now, I want to tell you guys this.
It kind of goes to show the ignorance of a lot of people.
I actually am going to have to do a mail-in ballot.
Nice.
Which is
nice.
That's what you get.
That's what you get.
I don't want to. But I will be actually, Fred, I'll let you know this. Glennon, you're more than welcome, brother, if you can get up there. My 40th, I'm going to put out the details later, but my 40th birthday is coming up. And so I'm going to have a get together up in Maryland. That's where most of my people is at. And
okay.
So
when is that going to be?
It's either going to be the 30th or the 31st.
Halloween?
Yeah, it's going to be somewhere between the 30th of October and then the 1st or 2nd of November. So I might even do it on like a Monday, which is because I want to rent a facility. And what I was going to do was have a roast. So if anybody wanted to roast me,
you better be checking temperatures.
But then they're going to get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So be careful because I get to come back.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'll roast that ass real quick.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do. So we'll see if we can get the details down. I'll definitely let you guys know.
That'd be great, man.
It'll be a good time.
Nice. But yeah, man. So we've got, that'll be awesome. But we've got, as of right now, most of the polls that I looked at, and I do agree. I think approval rating is going to be a much more accurate number in terms of just the psychology of people. I mean, and you kind of broke it down a little bit, but most of the polls, because that's really majority of what we have to go off of, are still leaning Biden. Yep. And some of them are still leaning as high as 8 points. I did see Biden up 8 points on one of them. What do you guys think on that? I mean, I don't really, and again, just to put it into perspective, and I like to throw this out there because people like to say, oh, well, Hillary was up in the polls and Trump still won. She wasn't up in the polls like that. Never was she ever any higher than 2.5 points in the polls.
I thought she was up 4, but here's the thing: is it depends what you're looking at. So, and I agree with Glenn, and I actually think Biden's in the driver's seat. I don't put a whole lot of weight into polls this soon. I don't even remember what the polls were at this point. I tried to find it and couldn't figure out how to get that information. I pride myself in finding information. I could not find it. So I'm going to try to find more. But
one thing really quick, just about the polls. Once we get within 8 weeks of the election, polling does start to get much more accurate than far out. So we are within that 8-week threshold. So things are starting to take hold.
Yeah, I think it's going to narrow in. I really do think that I understand that people don't believe it's going to work this way, but people are going to watch the debates. They are. First of all,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Trump is the best that there's ever been in terms of getting people to watch that thing. I mean, he is must-see TV, whether you love him or you hate him. He is must-see TV.
Hey, any publicity is good publicity.
And so,
As far as he's concerned.
and it's funny because last time, every time he said something that was controversial, and everybody was like, nope, it's over. And then his numbers went up. Everybody's like, what? And then the next time he'd say something, they're like, no way you can say that. You're like, what?
Yeah.
So what he has done, I think, very well to this point, and I do agree with Glennon that if you look at the national polls, he has not really gained any ground. He's lost ground here in the last month. But if you look at the polls in terms of Pennsylvania, very close. Here, I'll show you right now what and this
That's
is
going on in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you guys are going to see this is live as I'm looking at it right now. So this is what we were talking about earlier, the Rasmussen poll with Trump's approval rating +3, 51 to 48. But then at the same time, you have an disapproval of 8 down here.
Right.
But what I was going to say was if you look at certain areas, right, North Carolina, deadlocked. If things are deadlocked as a general rule of thumb, and I've been doing poll stuff for a while, and you can even verify this with certain people, but I actually put a financial bet on Trump winning and got 6-1 on my money because of my research in the polls. So people can say the polls were wrong. I actually think the polls were right. I don't think people were reading them correctly. But I go in and I look at the details of them, how many Democrats were asked, how many Republicans were asked. And then I also say, hey, look, if it comes down to where it's 50-50, it typically goes the way it's continued to go. Now, that did switch, I think, in Pennsylvania last time. But North Carolina right now, Biden's +1. So margin of error there, I believe, is 3 from the Emerson poll, if I remember correctly. People can click on it to find out. But I'm pretty sure it's 3. So within the margin of error, you go to Pennsylvania, Biden +2. Plus and minus is about 3. Okay. Florida, Biden +2. So although Biden is up in those are essentially deadlocked. I mean,
and those have been historically known to go Republican, those states in particular. I tell you one thing, though,
Pennsylvania's flipped back and forth. I think
that's what I was getting ready to say. Yeah, Pennsylvania's flipped back and forth. Yep. But I think this year, it's so close because you got all those people up in Scranton right now that are rooting for Trump. You got Philadelphia that's pretty progressive. So I mean that state is kind of a weird state.
How you pointed out his Biden's hometown and said all those people yelling for Trump.
Yeah. It is what it is. But
yeah,
man, the country is hell up in Scranton.
It is. Missouri, which of course, Trump has a pretty strong hold. I think he's going to carry, he's almost up double digits there. Biden is, let's say North Carolina even. Arizona. I think Arizona is going to be a place that Biden probably wins. He's almost +10 there. 17, Maine. And then if people don't know, Maine CD2 is a small district that gets its own electoral. It actually is going Republican about 50% of the time over the last 20 years. It's really little. I think it's like it's one electoral vote.
One electoral.
Yeah. I remember some idiot saying last year that was going to be the way the election came down, but I digress. Michigan, Biden's +8. I think that's pretty interesting. I think that's going to be very interesting to follow how that goes because that was an area that Trump won. So, that's going to have to change in order for him to be successful. Trump's going to win Utah. Again, Arizona here has Biden +2. So maybe Arizona is more in play. Wisconsin +6. Kentucky, that's fine. Everybody knows Trump's going to win Kentucky. Biden's going to win the main part of Maine. South Carolina, Trump's +6. I'm pretty sure he's going to win South Carolina. So you just have to look through these, the mixed states, and they're close, man. All of them. These battle states are extremely close. I think Michigan's maybe the biggest gap that I've seen out of all the I didn't see any Ohio or Iowa, which would have been interesting to see here.
What was Wisconsin? Wisconsin?
Well, Wisconsin is like 6. So Biden sit plus 6. So
yeah,
close. I mean, it's on that
that's
edge.
still pretty close. Yeah,
you're right there. And then again, you'd have to look
Wisconsin's always one of those states you just never. They can go either way.
Yeah, I mean that one. I want to say
they got quite a bit of electorals too.
I think Trump won by 70,000 votes or something really, really small. Wow. I mean, all these things, it's going to be close. And so I do think, contrary to what a lot of people may think, I actually think that this is going to come down to these debates. I think the difference in those areas is so small. And then I'll tell you, Biden better not do what Hillary did. And she better, Trump was a savage the last 2 months of the election last year. He was in I want to say the last 3 days of his election, he was in 20 different cities in 10 states or something over the last 3. I mean, he was boom, 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 boom. Believe it or not, you get a handful of voters, and he, people could debate it, but Trump really did win one of the most amazing elections in our lifetime. He really won the game. That's the first time I've ever seen an election won as a game. And I mean, in terms of the rules of the election and going, I don't care about winning the popular vote. Why? Because that doesn't matter. That's not what wins the election. So I'm going to focus on these states. It's funny because people go, well, he lost the popular, but it's the popular vote. First of all, it doesn't matter. It's like claiming you won more rebounds in a basketball game. It's well, you weren't focused on rebounds. Do I think Trump could win the popular vote? Maybe. I'm not sure that,
I don't think he can. I still don't think he can. He definitely would have won it against Hillary.
I would say that I wouldn't bet against Trump for sure. I might not bet with him like I would on an electoral, but I wouldn't vote against him because he's very good at competing.
So if you had $1,000, who are you going to put it on?
For the
electoral
college right now?
If you had $1,000 for electoral college, who's going to win the 2020 election? Who are you putting your $1,000 on?
If I had to put it down today?
Do you want me to get the odds?
Yeah, it's got to be real close. What about
it's probably got Trump up because
no, he was down the other day. I
don't know. I think
electorally?
Yeah, I mean he's behind right now on every poll.
I mean on every poll, yeah, but
so Biden.
I still think when it comes down to it,
Biden is minus 120.
Told you.
Trump is plus 110.
Yeah. So
there you go. Told you.
So
no,
you're wrong. If you bet 1,000, you're winning $1,100 on Trump.
Yes.
On Trump.
Right. You're getting an extra 100 on your 1,000. So if you're betting 1,000 on Biden, you're losing.
Where are my gamblers at? You're wrong. The Biden is the favorite.
Biden is the favorite. That's
Biden is the favorite.
What I'm saying. Yeah. If you put up 1,000, you got to put up 1,200 to win 1,000.
Correct.
All right. So if you put up 1,000,
I was right. That's what I said. Now it's close.
You're gonna win on the extra $100.
And that's actually pretty much exactly how I see it right now.
And so what he just said, now we just spent pretty much 15 minutes talking about polls, right? That are bullshit. But when we look at the electoral, which is the game, so polling, and I'm glad you used that analogy, Kenny. Polling is like rebounding or assist. The electoral vote is like the bucket. So while everybody's focusing on the popular
general
vote,
election, right?
Yeah, you could beat that as
the general election
with that fool.
Yep.
That's
and people can bring it up, but they have to understand they might not like it. And again, just like they can agree with Glenn and disagree with me, who's the better rebounding team? My point is we'll never know because Trump ain't playing to rebound. So maybe he would be able to rebound better. You can say, oh, he can't, but we don't know that because
that's not what he wants to do.
It's not what he's going to do. He is 100% focused on winning the electoral college. That's why he is always in those same 8 states. He's going to beat that to death. I do think he has some advantages in those areas.
Hey, we're only 8 days away from the first debate, fellas.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I can't wait for it. I do think that
Hey guys, somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time just hit me up like they need somebody to talk to. So I'm not sure if this is like a sad situation or something. So just give me a couple minutes, guys, and I'm
right, man. We'll go on to SCOTUS.
We're rolling.
Okay.
So let's go on to SCOTUS, Glenn. So there's a lot of shit going on right now where everybody and their mother is saying RGB this, RGB that, talking about, hey, I went to the Capitol, I laid down flowers, I was there. I've seen a lot of it because I live, right down the street from DC.
Right.
A lot of people are all about RGB. So, I mean, I get it, right? I get it. I understand, but what's next, man? What's next? Where are we going? I mean, are the Republicans right? Are the Democrats right? Is it all political bullshit again? What's going on?
Well, it's always all political bullshit, but
kind of leading in.
Right. RBG, man, she was she really was an advocate for women's rights, and she did a lot of great things with her time and her tenure on the Supreme Court as a Supreme Court justice. Of course, I think the argument or the talk right now is who is Trump going to now appoint as her replacement? And is he going to open Pandora's box? I mean, I don't know if somebody needs to send a little note to the Senate and let them know, like, but hey, if you're going to set a precedent with 10 months left in their term that the president can't appoint a Supreme Court justice, then you had better stick to that precedent.
Can we make a rule that both parties have to abide by so we don't have to deal with this shit?
Yeah, I mean, there should be a rule, you know what I mean? But, you can't have your take one way
to the fact,
and then need it the other. So it is. It's a valid argument. And I just think it's funny. I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit right here earlier in this segment, but if one party is cool with something and another party isn't, but then when the tables are reversed, that party that wasn't originally cool with it is now cool with it.
Yeah, right.
That's political bullshit, and I think the American people are tired of that. There needs to be some sort of rule, some sort of checks and balances system, because Honestly, Barack Obama had 10 months left. Trump has 4 months left. And, they definitely gave Barack Obama hell. And I don't know if people remember who the person was. It was Merrick Garland, who Barack Obama had planned to appoint with 10 months left in his presidency. So I think now Trump is going to appoint, what's her name? Amy.
Well, he has 2 females on that in mind.
Yeah.
Names.
I think he's going to go with Amy Rora, I think her name is, or something like that. I think he's going to go with her. But yeah, I think he's under a little bit of pressure to appoint another female, which again, kind of going back to when Joe Biden announced that he was going to be looking for a African American or a Black female running mate. I think, Trump didn't actually come out and say that, but a lot of if you watch the news, that's what everybody's talking about.
Lagoa?
Well, who is that?
Amy Barrett.
Amy Barrett, yeah. There you go.
And Barbara
Lagoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both excellent candidates, to be honest with you. I mean, they're both great candidates for the Supreme Court.
I kind of find it funny that all these people are coming out saying, "Hey, this woman she was all pro woman, and now a woman's coming up." And they're like, no, we don't want that woman.
Well, is that what they're really saying? No, I think they are giving a little pushback. I don't think they're really saying they don't want that woman. Obviously, they're not literally saying that.
President Trump's woman.
Right. Well, and that could be it. I think really, no, there's not a lot of people that trust Trump's judgment when it comes to much of anything.
Try to get one elected prior and his earlier, and then shit went down to where they just dug this dude's dick in the dirt. Like, they just brought all this bullshit up about his past, his family. Like, Didn't he try to bring us like a Supreme Court justice up earlier? I forget. Dude.
Yeah, and that's to be expected too. And that's to be expected. I forget the individual's name, but that's what happens. I mean, anytime you're going to be potentially hired for a high seat of office, a national seat. You expect to be under a lot of scrutiny. Expect to have your past brought up. Expect people to bring up tweets from 10 years ago and things like that. This is just the world that we live in nowadays. And what people don't realize is, nothing goes away. That stuff that you put on MySpace 12 years ago, 13 years ago, people can still pull that up. You know what I mean? And I just on that, a quick note on that. I do believe that people change. I don't think all people change, but I do think people change. And I think that if we're going to be holding people accountable for things that happened 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, then we also should take into account recent acts that may contradict that prior thing that they're under scrutiny for. You know what I mean?
Are one of these women like criminals or like they don't deserve the seat? Like, I don't know. I haven't done enough research on these two women, but if they're up for SCOTUS, I'm pretty certain they're not that bad of electees, right? Like, they got to be decent human beings.
Absolutely, and I mean, and their track record speaks. I mean, it
just goes to show that people just hate that Trump wants them in, and not because of who they really are.
Yeah, well, I think the main pushback is that, again, whether people want to hear it or not, a lot of people like Barack Obama, and Barack Obama was put under immense scrutiny when it was time for him to appoint a Supreme Court justice when he had 10 months left. And so now you've got Trump, who's got 4 months left. And, and people are I mean, the Senate has essentially opened Pandora's box. And I don't know about you, Fred, but
well, listen, if they just cancel it and say, look, we're not going to appoint him, and then Trump does win, do things change if he says, now you got to take my
obviously, of course. Yeah, okay. Of course, for sure.
Just playing devil's advocate. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to pick those two, but I heard some bullshit. I saw some shit on Facebook where Biden was like, I'm picking Michelle Obama. I thought she was disbarred. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. So
it was just, obviously it was Facebook drama. So I don't know, but
yeah.
I don't think he has a license anymore anyway, to be honest. So it should be a
no. I mean, the Obamas are worth a cool 50 million right now. They're always going to have Secret Service protection on the taxpayers' dime. They got bodyguards for free. They've got drivers and chauffeurs for free, and they're worth 50 million.
Is what you're telling me.
They ain't trying to do nothing. She ain't trying to do no work. She don't want to keep her license. She doesn't.
My point is, like, look, man, if I'm Trump, I don't want to be president. I want to go back to playing golf and being at Mar-a-Lago and fucking living it up. I don't want to be
Trump is so egotistical. And it's funny. I'm glad you said that, because deep down, I feel like he really doesn't want to be president. He doesn't want to put up with the bullshit anymore.
I mean,
but he's so egotistical.
Why would you want to go through this scrutiny every freaking day?
He doesn't want to lose. He just doesn't want to lose. He wants to be able to say he won. I could totally see Trump pulling a move like, okay, November 4th, if it comes out that he wins the election, November 5th or November 4th, all right, I won. But,
I quit.
I quit. I really don't want to do this shit anymore. I resign.
I mean, can you blame him? He's already a millionaire. Why the fuck would you want to go through this scrutiny every day of the year? I wouldn't want to do it. I don't.
People on the right are going to say, oh, well, he was already rich. He was a billionaire. He genuinely cares. He doesn't have to do this. He doesn't need money, blah, blah, blah. I understand that way of thinking. But when you're talking about Trump, when you look at his actions, it has nothing to do with the fact that he actually cares. I think maybe a piece of him cares, but he does not want to lose. I think he wants to win. He likes being popular. He likes being talked about. He wants to be in the spotlight.
Yeah, he's alpha. He's a winner. He doesn't want to go out like that.
Yeah, that's it. He doesn't want to go out like that. He just doesn't want to lose. He wants to be able to say he won again. He ran. He got 2 terms. He got his 8 years. And
he wants to go down as the best ever. I get it. I mean, I know what his personality. I understand.
And it's gonna be a crazy write up in the textbooks. I mean, can you imagine 100 years from now, kids learning about the Trump presidency? And
I mean, 2020 is like a fuck. I mean, shit, dude. We've lived through the best of times, and now like the freaking craziest of times, dude. Like it's nuts out there, dude.
Yeah, but I'm assuming in the coming days, because it looks like, and you know, I kind of touched on this a little bit as well too, but it looks like because the GOP holds the majority in the Senate, they're going to go ahead and push whoever Trump appoints through. And I mean, if the Democrats held the Senate, you know, at the time that Obama was, you know, made the appointment, you know, they would have pushed it through. And if Trump was president at the time that the Democrats had the House, then you know, they would block him. So I think that
whatever happens, it's not going to be appeased. Like the public's not going to be appeased. Something's going to burn down, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Something's burning somewhere. It's not going to matter. Hopefully, it's not in our areas, but you don't ever know, man.
Yeah, man. That's you know, we'll definitely see in the coming days. But yeah,
I think Trump just listed like Portland, Chicago, New York as like anti like terrorist regions or some shit like that. Like I'm pretty sure I saw some report about that.
Yeah, it's terrorist regions or something.
Yeah, like freaking like anti-government regions. I don't know what that means, but
yeah, well, you know, he's a lot of the Democratic-run states that have major cities that lean more toward the left or that are more liberal. He's done that. He has done that. So I know definitely Portland.
Real quick.
What was that?
He said, "Let me see if I can find that exact info real quick."
Yeah, man, because you know, I think it's not crazy. Bless you. And again, in my opinion, it speaks to his presidency, more divisiveness. I mean, what's the point of him doing that? I mean, because at the end of the day, whether you agree with it or not, the American citizens, especially if they have the backing from their government and their mayor, have the right to be doing what they're doing. So,
anarchist jurisdictions.
Yeah, anarchist jurisdictions. So, you know, the former Chaz district and things like that. Even though the Seattle mayor and governor have both came out and said that, you know, it was a nice try. They gave it an honest run, but you know, they've essentially gone back with what Trump said. We need to go back to law and order. So it's like he's still chastising them, even though they pretty much, you know, it's like, how many times do you have to smear pie in one's face? You know, after they've admitted defeat, essentially, it's kind of
it's him and Attorney General Barr.
Yeah,
the Department of Justice. They listed these cities as
anarchist.
Anarchist jurisdictions. So they don't supply any federal funding. No federal funding to these cities.
Yep. So New York City gets nothing. You get, of course, Portland gets nothing. Seattle gets nothing. Do you have the list in front of you? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Michigan is on the list.
Right now, it says 3 major U.S. cities, just 3. New York.
Oh,
Portland.
Really?
Yeah, just New York, Portland, and Oregon. I'm sure Michigan's a close 4th.
Yeah.
They're probably
Crazy.
they're probably right behind it, dude. And Maryland might be a close 5th. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I mean, even though Hogan's a Republican, him and Trump don't get along too much, and Hogan kind of leans a little toward the left, in my opinion. Oh,
yeah. I mean, he has an R by his name, but that motherfucker, I don't know. He might be a D.
Yeah. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's wrap this up. I mean, I think Kenny's got some shit to deal with. So go ahead and close this out, Glenn. What do you got, man?
All right. Well, again, thanks for being with us this evening, everybody, America, the world. We've got Monday Night Football happening right now. You guys are hanging out with us, and it is awesome. So just to kind of recap, I know we just finished talking about SCOTUS. I do think he's going to, the president is going, whoever he appoints, I think it's going to be pushed through because the GOP holds the majority in the House. And I think that that's what they're going to do. I think, again, if the Democrats held the majority and it was a Democratic president, they would push whatever appointment through that president made. If it was a Republican president, then the Democratic House would block that president, essentially. So that's what's happening here. And it's unfortunate that these things are so politicized, and it's almost as if our government or our political system tries to make these sort of decisions seem like a dichotomy when there's a lot of gray area. It's not just a black and white sort of thing. So, we've got SCOTUS, we've got coronavirus. Again, we're above 200,000 deaths, coronavirus. I know there was some rumor going around a couple weeks ago that there was really only 9,000 deaths or something like that. So, we're at about 205,000 deaths from coronavirus. It is a serious thing. And, just like we talked about earlier, our trend is following the world trend as well. But just to be accurate and be clear, the United States is, if I'm not mistaken, number 11th. We are 11th in new cases and 9th, I believe, in deaths in the world, or that number may be reversed, but 9th and 11th, though, in comparison to the rest of the world. So not the greatest. And I'm glad that Trump finally did come out and admit that that he downplayed it significantly in the beginning. Not that he was supposed to come out and scare people, but like I said in the beginning of this episode, I think that if we were to have maybe a Barack Obama as a presidency, with the way he spoke so eloquently, he would have been able to put the truth out there in a manner that would have still been positive, uplifting, and gave the people hope and some sort of optimism. So as of right now, we've got coronavirus going on with football games happening, and it's crazy. These guys don't have masks on the football field, but if your extracurricular activity happens to be that you play in the band, you got to wear a mask while you're playing in bands. So I think a lot of what we're seeing now, guys, is very telling, and we're starting to see where our society holds sports in comparison to other things kind of messed up. But and sports are very important. I get it, but now we're starting to see all these things sort of unfold. It kind of goes along with, in the beginning, is your job essential or non-essential? It's like, really? So the powers that be are deciding these things, and we're kind of just pawns in everybody's little games. So again, with that, I'm going to leave you guys. Thanks again for being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Fred.
Hey, like Glenn said, much appreciated. Monday night, our schedule's been a little sporadic, so we definitely appreciate all the audience members tuning in and being reliable, tuning in for us, watching us, and always being here. Zach Rourke, you've always been on our chats. We appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Glenn, and a shout out to you. Your Raiders are doing it, boy. They're 17-17 right now.
I know.
For the show, so. They're on the goal line, man, so they're about to take the lead. Look, man, hey, we love doing the show. We wish we could do it more, but as we said before, we all got families. Shit happens. We're trying to do it as much as we can. So, again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Much love and respect. God bless you all. Please be safe out there. Hey, look, coronavirus, it is real. It does affect people. So take precautions if you need to. But, hey, look. Listen, like Glenn said, football's going on, sports are going on, and maybe they're weighted a little higher than the rest of things, but ain't no cases going on with them playing. So, take it as it is. Just do your due diligence, wash your hands, stay safe, America. We love you, and we'll see you next time on the air.